How much do you need to make in order to buy a house in Little Elm, Texas? That is the question that we're answering today. We're going to look at 3 different price points in the city of Little Elm. So we're going to take real estate prices into consideration, real estate property taxes, which is very, very important that we do here in Texas, given that it's the 6th highest property tax rate in the country. So with that being said, let's find out the answer. How much we actually need to make in order to buy a house in Little Elm, Texas. We're going to look at 3 different price points, so let's begin. First things first, we need to understand what type of real estate prices we have going on right now in Little Elm. So at the present moment, there's 155 properties available for sale at the average price point of $487. So just under $500,000 is what we're looking for in Little Elm. So let's only look at single family residences because we're going to be doing some math around that. And let's start searching. So with Little Elm, one of the things that you're going to want to look for is, outside of the real estate prices, is where in, since Little Elm has such a geographic footprint, you're going to really need to make sure that you're in the area that you that's convenient for you whenever you're looking to commute, because being on top of Little Elm over here is radically different than being here in the southern part, but that's a story for another day. So we have Little Elm in the north part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and if you know anything about the north real estate prices, this is actually not bad when it comes to the real estate values up here, or the how much you need how much real estate prices happen to be. So the least expensive home for sale right now in the city of Little Elm is $265,000. Now you're going to see that you have 2 properties available for sale for under $300,000. So if you have a pre-approval in hand right now for up to $300,000, you're not going to have that many options, but you are going to have some options. Now, for our purposes today, we're actually going to do the math around the least expensive home. So technically it's this one that is financeable. And what that means is there are certain properties, given the condition, that are not going to be financially approved either through FHA loans, through conventional loans. They're going to need to be financed through different vehicles, different mechanisms, or straight up cash. So from what I'm looking at this, without getting into too much detail, we're going to go ahead and count it. This does look financeable for me. This is not tearing. This doesn't look like it's falling over or anything like that. So we're just going to go ahead and use this number as the least expensive home for sale right now. We're going to do the math on how much we need to earn in order to buy this house of $265,000. Now, what we're going to do as well is we're going to look through, and we're going to stop right around the average price point, so right around the middle in Little Elm. So you're probably going to find a lot of opportunities here up to $400,000, quite a few. So if you have a pre-approval, again, in hand, ready to buy a home, you can even get new builds, new homes for under $400,000 in Little Elm. So if you're looking for a really good city to live in that has 5-star amenities through and through and a 5-star lifestyle, Little Elm might be your ticket, might be your play. If I was in the north part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, I would consider making Little Elm my home. Unfortunately, most of my livelihood, my family, my community, and all that fun stuff is in the southern part of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So that's why I am personally in the Crowley, Burleson, Arlington, Mansfield type of area. But if I was in the north part, I'd be all over Little Elm. All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to go and find a medium price point after we check out what luxury looks like in Little Elm. So right now, the most expensive home for sale in Little Elm is $1.5 million. That looks pretty interesting. You've got a little barn concept going on. And just before that, you have almost $1 million property over here, $900,000. So for the luxury space, the number that we're going to use to do our calculation around, we're going to use $900,000. That'll get you just into that'll get you for sure into the luxury space in Little Elm, but it'll give you the high end. We're not going to use the the most expensive home right now, partly because there's some cities that have a $10 million property, that have a $5 million property, and the second most expensive home in that area happens to be $800 or $900. So we have those extremes. So I can't really go on the highest of the high to get the numbers. So we're going to do $900,000. That's going to be a good luxury price to get a good number of. If we're looking to buy luxury in Little Elm, I'm going to share with you the salary necessary to do that. So now we have the lowest end, so the least expensive home right now, $265. Now we have the higher end, the luxury space of $900,000. Now we got to find something in the middle to give us a breakdown on that. Now, given that the average property value right now is about $480,000, we're gonna stick in this. We're gonna stick in this market. So we're gonna say 480 is gonna be our average price point here. So the medium price point that we're gonna use. So we have the lowest, the medium, and the highest. So, well, not the highest, but almost to the highest. So we have luxury. So we have all our bases covered when we're doing our calculations. So we're going to come up with the salary needed for this, and for this. But first we need to look at the market environment to give us an understanding of the salary. Because we know our salary, that's going to be easy for us to plug in, but we need to put the parameters in place based on today's market conditions to have a realistic shot at getting this right. Now, this tool, this max price calculator tool, is linked down below, so make sure that you grab this. It's available to you. So you can do this exact same breakdown if you're looking to buy in Little Elm or any other city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So today we're going to look at Little Elm. All right, so let's talk about down payment and let's talk about some loans real quick. When you buy a house, most of the time you're going to get a loan, and there's different types of loans out there. There's VA loans, FHA loans, conventional loans, no doc loans, there's portfolio loans, there's so many different types of loan products out there. But the two primary loans that you're most likely going to get offered through your lender is going to be your conventional loan or your FHA loan. Those are the two most common types of loans that you're going to get. Now, in most loan scenarios, depending on, again, they're all going to vary, but in most loan scenarios and most loans out there, you're going to be asked to put a down payment. Some exemptions apply, of course, like VA loans. You can get into that loan for 0% down. USDA loans, you can get into that loan for 0% down. For the most part, you're going to have a down payment requirement, and there's some minimums required there. So with conventional, the minimum down payment is 3%. With FHA, the minimum down payment is 3.5%. So there's going to be a down payment element component to this. So for this particular case, we're looking at for this particular scenario that we're building out across the board, we're going to say that we're going to come to the table regardless of the price point with 5% down. That's our choice. That's what we're going to be using as our benchmark. Let's continue. Whenever we seek out a loan, whenever we get out a loan, there's a charge for that. There's an expense for that, and that expense is known as the interest rate. So what we borrow is called the principal. So the amount that we borrow is going to be the principal. What we get charged on that principal, what we get charged on that amount that we borrowed is the interest rate. That's our expense. That's our cost. Now, the interest rate is going to vary. It varies by the hour. So whenever you're watching this video, even if you're watching this live, which I appreciate you hopping on, hit that like button. Don't forget to do that. That would be cool. But even regardless of when you're watching this, you're going to want to find what's going on in the present market today. So the best way to do that is just to go to Google and type in something to the effect of, what is the interest rate right now for buying a house, or some variation of that. It doesn't have to be specific. And the best website that I've found for current information that's updated as best as I can, because this is pretty fluid, is Bankrate. And at the top, you're going to see, at the time of this recording, which is on a Sunday, the national average for the 30-year fixed is 6.34%. So we're going to use this average just to give us a starting point. Some of you are going to get quoted higher. Some of you are going to get quoted less. It's an average. That's where the average comes from. So we're going to do actually it's the same from yesterday's live stream. So 6.34%. Let's continue. How long is your mortgage? For most of the scenarios that we're going to build out on this channel, and for most of the loans, truth be told, you're looking at 30 years, but you can adjust it in this calculator. You can go down to 20, 15, and beyond if you so choose. The most important thing in this particular breakdown that we need to get right, and I mean absolutely must get right, is the property tax rate, because it changes for every single city. And it's also one of the most misunderstood things about buying real estate, property taxes. So here's what we got to get into. a very brief breakdown of property taxes. When you buy a house, you're going to be paying property taxes. Now, if you've been renting or leasing your entire life, property taxes are going to be new to you. It's going to feel like a foreign concept. It was for me. It felt like theft, if we're being real. Whether whether it is or not, I mean, that's not a conversation we can have today. But it was so brand new to me. I didn't understand why so much money was going out every single month. And you're going to see the breakdown today on how much actually goes out. But anyway, I have no understanding of property taxes. So whenever you buy property, you're paying property taxes. Second thing to understand, in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, the property tax rate, in other words, that percentage that gets taxed against the assessed value of your home every single year, is between the range of 1.8% to about 3% in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So as an example, if you're in a city that has a 2% property tax rate, that means every year you're paying 2% of the assessed value of your home in property taxes. As you can see, that adds up. If you're talking about 2% times 20 years that you're there, that's a lot of money. Right? That is a ton of money. You're talking about paying 40% of the value of your home all over again, just in property taxes. So that's the second thing to understand. The range is about 1.8 to about 3% in Dallas-Fort Worth. The third thing to understand before we get into the actual calculation of this is that in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, you have up to 5 numbers that you need to find in order to get a true property tax rate number, meaning these 5 numbers, you're going to find them, add them together, and then you're going to see what your actual property tax rate is. So again, up to 5 numbers. So the first one's going to be your city tax rate. Every single city is going to have this. Your county tax rate. Every single city is also going to have a county tax rate. And the ISD tax rate. Every single city is going to have these. These 3 numbers you're going to need to find regardless of the city that you go into. Today we're looking at Little Elm. So city, county, ISD, those 3 numbers need to be found. 2 other numbers that often come up in cities throughout the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex are your your higher education tax. So think of community college, and your hospital network tax. So think of, if you're in Dallas, think of Parkland. If you're in Fort Worth, think of JPS, hospital network, John Peter Smith Hospital. So those are up to 5 numbers that you would need to find. So that's what we're going to do today, because it varies. And I've done so many videos on Little Elm, so many videos on Denton, so many videos on Frisco, so many videos across every single city in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, and they're still hard to find, these property tax rate numbers. Little Elm, Little Elm, Texas. Let me focus. Let me dial in. Property. I forgot how to type today, I guess. I just went for a run this morning with our run club. I got cooked today. I was just not feeling it. It was rough. I mean, I did finish second and whatnot, but man, I walked. It was rough today. It was rough. All right, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna go to the city. You're gonna go to the city itself as it's loading. Now, the downside of these property tax information, especially with the city, is that every single website is different. And every single website does its best to not work. No, that's the least of our problems, but every single city does a good job of not giving you that information. Very few cities will actually tell you, this is the city, this is the county, this is the ISD, this is a higher education, this is a hospital network, property tax rates. Very few cities actually break it down. Now, at the risk of crashing the entire system, I'm not going to click on this one. We're going to need to find this manually if we can't find this anywhere else. So we're going to go to the second source. So again, first try to find their website directly from the actual city website. Second place, you're going to go to the county website. So in this particular case, Little Elm, we're going to go to Denton. So let's dial in for a quick second here. I'll show you a third way because I'm feeling generous, and also I think it's a little silly that their website is down. So I'll show you a third way just for the fun of it. But I'm gonna need to blur out a few things because I don't want to dox anybody, because it's gonna be a real life example. All right, so tax year 2023, county is gonna be Denton, city is gonna be Little Elm ISD, and depending on where you're at, I don't believe there's gonna be a water district unless you're in the far north of Little Elm. I could possibly see that, but I don't think there's going to be a water district applicable to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a property value of 100,000 for easy math, and we're going to go down here to calculate to get the breakdown. So these are the three numbers that I mentioned we have to find come heck or high water. The other two, through the backdoor method that I'm going to show you, we're going to be able to find if there's these other two tax rates that we need to worry about, the higher education and the hospital network. But for our purposes today, we have Denton, we have the city of Little Elm, and the ISD. So basically, the tax rate right now, as we know it, based off of this calculator that is through the county, it's 2%. Is the property tax rate. So here, as we know it, before I forget, I'm just going to put 2%. That's our property tax rate in Little Elm. Now, I don't want to confuse the issue, but I also want to show you that that other method. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the county itself, assuming that the CAD is up. So I'm going to go to Denton CAD, and then I'm going to go here. I'm going to go back over here for a quick second. I'm going to take this particular address. I'm going to type this into the CAD. I have to, I'm using my other screen over here because, again, I don't want to dox anybody. So I'm just going to blur out a few things to show you and illustrate what we got going on. All right, so let's see if this breaks it down. All right, good. Okay, so let's see. Let me put all eyes on me for a quick second. Let me move this over here because it'll make it larger. Okay, let's check this out. All right, so this is the website. This is the CAD. This is directly from the CAD, and the property that I just moved on here onto here is the actual tax rates that the actual taxes that they're paying. So here they have the actual taxes that they're paying on this property, and also with their exemptions, which means that you can apply a homestead exemption if that's the home that you're using as your primary home. If you're over 65, you can apply an exemption, meaning you're going to reduce your property taxes. If you have a disability, that can also reduce your property taxes. If you protest your property taxes and reduce the assessed value, that there's so many different ways to reduce your property taxes. But what is important for us today is looking at the Denton County. So we have that. Let's go back here. Denton County is the same, so that is correct. Denton ISD 1.15. So here, this particular city, this particular property that I pulled up is actually in Denton ISD. It's not in Little Elm ISD, which is probably going to throw off something else. Yeah, they're using Denton as the city. Okay. At the risk of taking even longer, let me take this back out over here and find. You know what? We're gonna split the difference. We're going to say that our property taxes here are going to be anywhere between 2.0 and 2.1. Because what threw off this number, this calculation, is the ISD. Denton ISD is that property right here that we pulled up. If I can quickly pivot and it work, I'm gonna give you the exact amount. But if not, I think we kind of get the gist of it because we have another way of finding this. Nope, this one's also a Denton ISD one. All right, we're gonna split the difference. So we're gonna say that our property taxes are 2.05%. But if you're in the Denton side, again, this has a Little Elm address. But here on the CAD, you're going and paying the Denton ISD because that's where this particular property is zoned to. So just be mindful of that. This is a good example of knowing where you're buying, because it's going to impact you. It's slightly, one you're going to get 2.1%, and another place you're going to get 2%, so 2% straight up. This one's in Frisco ISD. Let me show you this one. All eyes on me real quick. Let me show you this one to really illustrate the impact, because right in the brief, maybe not so brief, in the last 8 minutes that we've been talking about property taxes, I've given you three different values, and they're all right. It just depends on the property that you're buying. So this one, the property that I just pulled up, it's this one right here. This one has the Little Elm tax rate, which we knew what the Little Elm tax rate was. This is 0.58, so it's right. The Denton County, we also knew what the Denton County was up here, but this time it's not even Little Elm ISD, it's actually Frisco ISD. And notice the difference, right? So remember when the second thing that I mentioned, in Dallas Fort Worth, your range is about 1.8% to about 3%. If you're on the east side of the Little Elm, you're going to be geared more towards Frisco ISD, which has less property taxes, right? So just to break it down, basically this means that if you're in Frisco ISD, you're paying 1.8% while you're living in Little Elm. If you're going to Little Elm ISD, you're going to be paying 2%. If you go to Denton ISD, you're going to be paying 2.1%. I know it's confusing if this is the first time that you're running into property taxes, but this is what we do every day. So I'm actually going to go back to 2% because I feel pretty confident about that now, seeing these three properties that just by happenstance, they came together. Let's continue. I didn't mean to spend this much time in property taxes, but in a way it's good that we see these different types of changes, because you're going to notice that if you're buying a $480,000 property, there's a big difference between paying 1.8% and 2.1% every single year, right? You're talking about hundreds of dollars this year. You're talking thousands of dollars in the next year, the next year, the next year. Pretty soon you can find yourself paying tens of thousands of dollars more in property taxes with one street over, right? So let's just be mindful of that. Insurance rate. So your home insurance rate is just a rough calculation. What we do is we just multiply 0.75%. This is what it looks like, 0.75%. So essentially 0.75% times the value of the home, we get the yearly monthly premium. The yearly premium for your home insurance. It's a ballpark. It's an estimate, and you're going to see what that calculation looks like here shortly. Mortgage insurance rate. Let's back up for a quick second. Let's talk about down payment. We talked about there being different loan types. We talked about FHA and conventional being some of the most common types of loans. And then we talked about the down payment of 5% is what we're going to use for this breakdown. Well, if we put anything less than 20% down in the purchase of this home, we're going to be paying what's called mortgage insurance. What is mortgage insurance? Mortgage insurance is an insurance that the lender puts on you as the borrower in the event that you default, so they can recoup their money or reduce the risk or not lose as much money in your default. So not only are they taking the property back regardless, but they also have an insurance policy on you in that event. So they're not losing out as much as they would have. And the kicker here is that you're paying for that. You're paying for that at home. You're paying for that mortgage insurance. So this means that you're paying an additional expense, an additional amount every single month in the form of mortgage insurance. And again, that gets triggered because you didn't put at least 20% down. Anything below that, you're paying mortgage insurance. One last distinction and we move on. If you get a conventional loan, eventually, once you do make your payments and get up to 20% at least ownership in your property, that mortgage insurance goes away. You no longer need to pay that monthly. Now, with an FHA loan, again, if you put less than 20% down with an FHA loan, that mortgage insurance stays there for life. You're never getting rid of it. You're paying that forever and for always until you pay off that loan, refinance, or sell that house. So for our purposes today, we're going to say it's a conventional loan and we have decent credit. We're not going to put ourselves with excellent credit nor terrible credit. For our HOA fees, given that we're in Little Elm, given that there's a lot of new construction that's happened there and is currently happening right now, you're not going to get rid of HOA. It's going to be hard for you to find a property that is not in an HOA zoned area. The reason being is because over 85% of the homes that are being built right now in not just Texas, the entire country, is being sold into an HOA. So into an HOA community. The articles of incorporation and all that crap. No, they're not called articles of incorporation. They're called something. I forget those. We just put another property under contract that's brand new. I forget what they're called. But anyway, reasonable homeowners insurance, homeowners association fees for this particular area is going to be $400. Oops, $400. Roughly 400, 500, 600. It's going to be reasonable for this Little Elm city. All right, we're not going to worry about the income tax rate because we're going to be adjusting this here. All right, so now that we know what the market conditions are, so we know what prices we have to work with, if we want to buy the least expensive, the average price home, or the luxury space in Little Elm, plus the financing that goes along with it, now we can input our part of the equation. Now we can put how much we are making per year, and this is where we start doing the calculation. So let's just say we make we make $65,000 a year. That is our yearly gross income. Now, whenever you input your income, you also need to back that up with the debt that you have. So in other words, the lender that you're working with is going to look at your debt to income ratio. They're going to look at how much debt you have that you need to service. And that means car loans, student loans, child support, personal loans, credit cards, that stuff. Those are debts. They're going to look at that debt and they're going to look at your income. And there's a ratio that goes with that. Now, don't confuse debt with expenses. Expenses is your normal day-to-day things. Your utilities, your groceries, your phone bills, those are expenses. Those are already baked into the formula. What is not baked into the formula is the additional debt that you're incurring, like car loans, student loans, and all that fun stuff, right? So the bank doesn't care how much you pay in groceries. They don't care how much you pay in your phone bill, utilities, and stuff. There's already a standard number that they have in the back, if you will. They're more interested if you're incurring additional debt than what they've already allocated, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to put the debt name and the minimum down payment. If you're making extra payments to get rid of that debt sooner, God bless you, that's awesome, but that's not necessary here. We just need the minimum monthly payment. Now, this is all for you. Once you get this is linked down below. Again, the max price calculator is linked down below. You're just going to go to file, make a copy, and it's yours. I'm never going to see this. This is for you to keep. Just go down there and grab this. But make sure that you input this or else it's going to throw the calculations off. Now, if you have a co-borrower, same thing. How much they're making per year and also how much debt they have, right? So in most banks, in most situations, you're going to get up to three people on that loan. Anything beyond that, it's going to be a little bit challenging. Not all lenders are going to want to do that. There's no law against that, but you're going to find it tough to get 3 plus more than 3 co-borrowers on a loan. All right, so now that we have the inputs, let's see how much we can afford based off of the income that we have right now. We'll come back to this and I'll break down that. But right now we need to know, can we afford to buy this $265,000 property, which is the least expensive home in Little Elm today? Based off of our calculation, we can buy up to a $283,000 property. So technically we can. However, when we do our breakdowns, when we do our discovery calls with our clients, we don't work for the riskiest loan. We don't advise any of our clients to get maxed out on their purchase price or their ability to borrow. We don't advise to that. We don't even advise to the aggressive side. Now you can't go to the lender and say, hey, give me an aggressive loan or give me a risky loan. These names, these don't exist. These are just our representation of what we deem to be pretty challenging, right? So 59% of your net income going to your housing expense, that's challenging. Same thing with your risky. Now moderate, you're getting a little bit closer to balance, if you will. So here when we work with our clients, we want whatever they're looking to buy, in this particular case, $265,000 property, we want that 265 to fit between the moderate and the aggressive. We feel comfortable in those numbers. This is where up to basically our limit, if you will, when we're advising our clients. Our clients are able to do whatever the heck they want. That everyone has free will, but when we're advising and counseling, we like to stay within these two numbers. So for our purposes today, we actually just hit it on the nose. We would need to make $65,000 per year to be able to buy a house in Little Elm for $265. My goodness, $265,000. So the least expensive home in Little Elm we'd be able to afford at this income. Now let's keep it going. If we want to buy if we want to buy a $480,000 property, let's go and let's get a raise. Let's see, if we make $100,000, can we buy this property out in Little Elm? Factored everything else into the equation. If we make $100,000, we are not eligible quite yet. The most that we can afford is $438,000. So let's go back and let's go ask for another raise. Let's say we make $115,000. Can we buy this $480,000 property? And based off of our breakdown, yes, 480 is right, not right between, but it's in between these two numbers. So as to balance, because notice this is about 100 difference. So as to balance and try to get somewhere in between, so it's not as close to the aggressive, I'm gonna add a little bit more. If we make $120,000, while again technically 115 would have been well enough, I feel comfortable with this number. So that was what, 70, and then over here is like 50, 45, something like that. This is fine. So if we make $120,000, we are able to buy this $480,000 property because it fits between our moderate and aggressive loan. So what we're going to do is we're going to say $120,000 is what we need to make per year in order to buy this house. Now, if we're going to get into the luxury space in Little Elm for $900,000, we need to make a little bit more. So we're going to say is we make $225,000 a year and see if we can afford this $900,000 property. We actually can. So 900,000 is right in here. So above the moderate and below the aggressive. So if you make $225,000, you would be able to afford this $900,000 property. Now, again, keep in mind that we're talking about this amount of down payment, this amount in interest, this in property taxes, and so on and so forth. If you put more money down, so if you take a few more years to save, and you're not taking as much out in a loan at this rate, then you would be able to make less and buy a property in Little Elm, but you would need to put more money down. So this means that you would need to spend more years saving. But for the sake of just to illustrate what a monthly mortgage payment looks like, I want to give that breakdown to you today. So let's just say we buy a property. Forget everything over here for a quick second. That we've already input the stats. We've already put our gross income. Let's just look at this number, right? So based off of the things that we've put in, more focus on this. Let's say we want to buy this house for $601,000. So if we're going to go to Little Elm and we want to buy a house, and just so you visually see that type of house that we're looking at here, this house right there would be a candidate. And let's see if we can find another one up the top. This one would be close. So essentially we're talking about this property right here. If we wanted to buy this property, which would be roughly $600,000, this property right here, if we wanted to buy it, just so you get a visual, payment wise, it would look like this. We would need about $30,000 to come to the closing table. So we would get, for us to meet the 5% down, and we would need about $15,000 in closing costs. So that means the fees to the title company, fees for the lenders, and everything like that. This is what you would need to come to the closing table with. Now, that would mean that you have about a $5,250 a month mortgage payment. which is broken down into several numbers. We talked about some of those already. We talked about the principal and the interest. So meaning the amount that you borrowed, you're paying that back, and you're paying interest. So this is what would go towards that, the principal and the interest. Property taxes. This is why I spent so much time trying to get the property taxes right, because this 2% matters, especially when you're factoring in property taxes. So here, property taxes, the good news and bad news is that the good news is that this is overestimated because we're doing 2% of the value of the home right now, the market value. That's the good news, that we're overestimating. The bad news is that I'm not overestimating by much because most likely an assessed value of a home of this market value is probably around $520,000 or $480,000 or so if on a good day. Your property taxes, your true property taxes, will probably be right around the $900 mark. But again, this is an estimate. This is a little bit higher than what it's actually going to be, just to give you a conservative number. Homeowner's insurance would be roughly that premium. Your mortgage insurance would be that. Now, again, as a quick reminder, you're paying mortgage insurance on a conventional loan until you get 20% ownership of that home. So as the years go by and you're making payments, you'll eventually get to 20% ownership. And then the mortgage insurance goes away. From an FHA perspective, this mortgage insurance never goes away. And your homeowners association, technically you don't pay it monthly. You don't pay it into your mortgage payment. That's something that gets invoiced to you either yearly, quarterly, or semi-annually. But we do like to call it out here just so you see it, right? So this is how much you need to make in order to buy a house in Little Elm. So if you're looking to buy a house, the least expensive house, $265,000, you need $65,000. If you're looking to buy a $480,000 property, you would need to make $120,000 a year. And if you want to buy in the luxury space, you would need to in Little Elm, you're looking at $900,000 property, you would need to make $225,000 a year. Folks, that's all I had for you. If you found some value, make sure to hit that like button. That's going to help distribute the video to more people that need this type of information. Also, if you're looking to buy or sell in the Little Elm, in Little Elm or the surrounding metroplex, please feel free to reach out to us. Our contact information is down below, and share this video with anybody that you think could benefit from it. Outside of that, I'll see you on the next one. Thanks so much. Bye.